So, welcome to the next edition of the Rare Business Podcast. With me today, I have James McGourlay, who is the Senior Vice President of Global Technical Services for OpenText. Hi, James.
Hi there.
So, James, for the benefit of our listeners and readers, can you tell us a bit more about you and a bit more about the work that you do?
Sure. I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Technical Services for OpenText, and OpenText is the leading provider of enterprise information management technology and services. We help customers transform their organizations into digital-first organizations.
Okay, perfect. Now, we were talking about, I think it was probably about a month ago as a preamble to setting up this interview, and you were telling me. Now, I was telling you that I'm really interested in developments in customer experience and what's going on. And you told me you've just been on a bit of a world tour, which makes you sound like a rock star, but actually a world tour of your customers and your partners. But I wonder if you'd be able to share some of the things that you've learned from your customers about the big challenges that they're facing and what, say, OpenText are doing to help them?
Yeah, we did. So we just came off the innovation tour, and the innovation tour took us to 16 cities across the globe, and we're really getting out and talking to our customers about our message, transforming into digital organizations. And, we're talking about simplify, transform, and accelerate across the world, really helping businesses take the complexity out of their organizations and their dealings with customers. When we're looking at customer experience, one of the things that the people are telling us is they're trying to make things simpler for the customers, really to get that simplified message. So they're trying to make things simpler for the customers, take that effort out of dealing with organizations. And the digital-first world really leads into that simpler customer experience, that easier customer experience. If you think of the things that you do in your consumer life, you check into a hotel or you pick something up on the iTunes store. It's really a simple experience, and that's what businesses are trying to take in the B2B world as well. Is really take the effort out of doing business with each other, and that's really where OpenText can help out. And it's also where we've seen a lot of effort focus. And if you look at the customer experience world, whether it's websites, it's e-commerce, it's business to business or managed services. It's really about taking the complexity out of business, and it's really about transforming all that is paper-based or all that is complex, really transforming it into a digital transaction. And that's what our customers are telling us. They're really focused on getting to those simpler digital transactions, and ultimately a more straightforward organization.
And tell me, do you think that this simplification sort of drive, is that being driven by people's general experience in a business-to-consumer world, and therefore business-to-consumer is therefore the experiences they're having in business-to-consumer sort of space, or as consumers, is driving their expectations?
Exactly. Exactly. Especially as we see the millennials come into the workforce, these are people that are, they're born in the digital age, and they expect things to be straightforward and simple. And as people, the millennials are coming into the workforce, they're bringing that consumer focus and that consumer way of doing business, and the simplified way of or the simplified user experience. We don't expect that people will wait months and years to install software projects now. People are looking to get things done, much like that consumer experience. I want to click a button, I want it there, and I want to be transacting right away. And when you look at the change that's come across the industry in the last few years, you used to think you'd sit down and you'd start building a program. You hire 100 people, you go through a couple of rounds of venture capital, and then maybe a year and a half later you'd have a project or product out there, and you get your first customer, and then you continue to iterate through, and then you release another major version, you get a couple other customers. Now you sit down, $100, you do some coding, you've got an app up on the iStore, and within weeks you've got thousands of customers that are pulling this app down and using it right away. It's a much different world that we're living in, and we expect that this is going to continue to accelerate as we move into 2020. As people continue to transform into digital, it's just going to get faster and faster. Okay. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely, we expect it, and we know that people are bringing their experience they're seeing in the consumer world into the business world nowadays.
Okay.
And it's transforming the businesses.
Okay. And also one of the other things that we were talking about kind of before is that one of the things that sort of underpins a lot of this and the whole sort of like customer experience, whether it's in the consumer space or the business to business space, is getting to that, and this sort of lends itself towards the simplification type thing, is this unified view of the customer. Now, because we were talking about that still being a challenge. I mean, is it still a big challenge, and why is that?
I mean, it is a big challenge, and it's a challenge for a number of reasons. We interact with our customers in many different ways. Whether it's our websites, our web stores, the online stores, or it's through our billing departments and those types of things. So we're interacting with our customers in a number of ways, and many of these systems aren't connected. You have lots of insight in various different places. So you might have a CRM system that contains all of your sales data, but it might not contain all of your your customer experience data from your website, or what you're picking up from your support organization, or from your billings systems. Those things in many organizations aren't really all that interconnected now, but we are starting to see people bring these things together, and to bring the various bits of interaction that they're having with their customers together and start to analyze that. We do it at OpenText ourselves. We have a method for bringing these together, and we're really starting to gain some really good insights from bringing the different disparate pieces of data together and then reporting them out in various different ways to different departments. And the ability to do that in an ad hoc manner and really give the specific department, if I'm looking at a CS issue, I can go through, and not only can I see a CS issue, but I can also see what the customer has purchased and those types of things, and bring that together to get one whole view. But it is something that companies are still struggling with and trying to expand that capability.
And what are the big things, the big challenges that are stopping kind of companies doing it? Is this just because? Is it the state of the technology? Is it different departments not working together? Is it that it's such a huge piece of work, or what are the big hurdles?
I think you hit it right. You hit all of them. It's
okay.
As much as we want to work together. There are still silos in companies, and where you have different organizations that are focused on getting their daily tasks done, and they may not have the full 360 view. They may have the blinders on and just going straight down their track. So there's a bit of that. There's the complexity in the different systems that are employed, and all of those things build together to make it slightly difficult to get a unified view. It's not impossible. I think there's a lot of technology out there today that really takes advantage of the power of the computers that we have and the processing power that we have, and can start to go through. And everybody talks about big data, and big data is just data, but there's lots of it.
Yeah.
But we have the power now to go out and pull that data together and do the analytics and run through and actually pull the nuggets of information out and pull things together so that we can actually create great reports and have a good view. But yeah, there's a lot of things that make it difficult at first glance.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me because forgive me for being slightly a bit of a heretic on this sort of stuff, but because people talk a lot about the sort of big data and things, and that seems to, because it's a new thing, it seems that we kind of skip over some of the rudiments or the fundamentals of, well, actually having all of the information in one place about a customer in terms of transaction history and billing and sort of like customer service kind of queries and all those different sort of things. That's the 80-20, that the 80% of stuff that that would solve most of the kind of problems, and the big data and the analytics and pooling it all together is the icing on the cake. But it's almost to get like the shiny object of big data, maybe the thing that's kind of like taking more of our attention because it's the new thing rather than it's doing the hard work, which is consolidating the information. Would that be fair?
Well, yeah. So, as I said, we look at data, big data or data, and we look at it as the same thing.
Right. Okay.
Data is just data. There's a lot of it. But to your point, it's not the end result, right? I mean,
No.
what we want is we want to get the result of that database of information where it is, and actually, pull together the results and pull together the information in a clear manner that actually provides us, whether we're looking at, customer data or you can medical data or whatever. But you're doing analytics and you're coming up with business, and that's the absolute most important piece of this. And then there's process that goes around it. There's all kinds of things that go around the big data in order to make it useful. You can have all the data in the world you want, but if you don't have technology and the process and the business goals to pull it together, it is just the next bright shiny thing.
Yeah.
But to be honest, we look at it and think, you know what? The capabilities that we can deliver nowadays with the processing power, with the software that we have, it really can do some astonishing things.
Yeah, sure.
We have a customer who's actually using our analytics software, and they're analyzing the passengers on their transit system. They're using it to build out the flows of the buses and schedules and that type of thing. So when you start to look at the result of what you can get by looking at the information that's coming in and starting taking citywide transit system and looking at traffic flows and then using that data to actually reschedule the buses, it's amazing when you think of that. I mean, the types of things that you can do. We have another customer who's going through, and they're going through the logs on their websites and viewing transactions and viewing what people are doing, which services they're subscribing to, and it can give their marketing team a view of the customer that day. They know who the customers are, but they also know exactly what they're doing, and you can tell which services are up and which services are down on a day-to-day basis. And it really allows them to adjust and to manage the business in a different way. So, but that's pulling system information in from multiple systems. I think they pull it into a Hadoop system and then analyze it out of there. So, there's quite an opportunity here for us.
I don't know. I couldn't agree. Kind of like more. I was just thinking a bit more about it can be a bit of a cart and a horse type of type of kind of thing. But,
yeah, and I agree. Right. I mean, you have to. The key thing is thinking of the business and driving the business results. And I do agree that big data is a bit, I wouldn't say overhyped, but it's not the be all and end all. The be all and end all is the business results that you're able to derive from pulling that data together and then getting the analytics and massaging the data into a report that becomes useful for the business. And that, and that's really getting down to what the customers are doing at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So James, let's come back to the sort of the unified view of the customer angle, because I'm fascinated by how, because it's a persistent sort of challenge, and I'm fascinated by what some organizations are doing to sort of bring all that together, really. I wondered, do you have a couple of examples or case studies of companies that are sort of making big strides in this area that you could share with us?
Yeah, so DNB Bank Group in Norway is Scandinavia's second largest bank.
Okay.
And a subsidiary, DNB Finance, is one of the largest finance companies in the Nordic region, with offices in all the major Scandinavian cities, and has a dominant position in car financing. They have 300,000 finance vehicles in its portfolio, and it provides information technology, financing, vehicle fleet management, and factoring to the public sector. So, it's a large organization, with a number of customers, and they were looking at how to expand their application, provide more information to the businesses, and provide customers with up-to-date statistics and help track car-related costs, and really help maintain the organization. So it's not so much about a company getting an overall view about their customers, but helping their customers understand their expenses. So, which in turn helps the organization.
Okay.
But the DNB, they had a car configurator application for its auto leasing business, and you could enable new and existing clients to choose and configure a car and obtain quotes online, right? So they're giving the customer the ability to go in and do business with DNB Finance, quite easily. But what they want to do is provide an add-on for that. So report about the usage of the vehicles and help control costs. So working with OpenText, and they pulled a bird analytics solution together that actually helped the organizations or their customers keep track of all their car-related costs and provide up-to-date reports on things like fuel usage, costs, mileage, damage reports, and various things, and then provide all those things out on an ad hoc basis. So you're actually able to give the customers the ability to look at the assets and see exactly where they are, see what their costs are, and control that cost. Obviously, when a customer comes in, they can see the vehicles that they have, but now you're adding onto that layer and just giving the extra added level of detail.
Okay, that's quite interesting, because actually, kind of, it's almost like a lot of the time when people talk about unified view of the customer, they kind of talk about it from an inside-out perspective and trying to align all the internal sort of systems and processes and things. But actually what they've done is almost like flipped it on its head and said, let's do something for the customer, and that will help us in kind of achieving kind of our own sort of aims as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the inside out view. There's an interesting book. It's put out by Forrester, not to name drop, but it's outside in, and it encourages you, when you're thinking of customer experience, to take that outside in view of your organization. So as a customer, how do you interact, or how does a customer interact with your organization or your company? And it really does add some enlightening thoughts when you start to consider things in that manner.
Yeah.
And this is one of those cases. But when you take that, and back to your point, taking that overall 360 view of the customer, I think it really starts to take on some an interesting perspective. If you start to look at the customer and take that 360 view, you take aircraft engines, for example. Many of the modern aircraft engines are able to report back on a frequent basis, their operating statistics and metrics, and and it goes into a database and it's tracked, and it really helps the organization, the manufacturing organization, monitor and maintain those engines. But at the same time, it gives you that capability to suggest preventative maintenance, suggest services to the customers. And we see the same thing in farm implementation, where there's technology that exists to allow the tractors, or the farm implements, I guess, the tractors working in the fields, to transmit data about position, about conditions, about soil conditions, and those types of things back to organizations, and they store the data, and they monitor, and they're able to report against it. And, so the view of the customer becomes more than just the transactions where they've actually bought a piece of a piece of farm equipment, or a jet engine. It becomes an ongoing view of the customer.
Yeah, sure. So it's actually more about the relationship. It's more about the relationship and how they use something, and helping them optimize the use of something, rather than just being about the thing itself.
Exactly, or about that that immediate sale, or that those initial transactions. It's the long-term usage. And we're starting to see those types of things coming into software as well. On the consumer side, particularly, there's use statistics and functionality, and as organizations are monitoring the pieces or the bits of software that are actually getting used the most, they're able to focus their efforts on improving those, and then determining why other pieces aren't being able to use. But this ongoing view of the customer, and this ongoing 360 view of the customer, is really allowing organizations to better serve their customers long term, and ultimately, retain the customers and derive more revenue from those customers by continuing to monitor and continue to analyze the usage patterns, the buying trends, and those types of things.
Okay, so let me go back to the thing that you were saying right at the beginning. That you were talking about simplify, transform, and accelerate. And just because I'm conscious of sort of time and things, if I was to say to you, so somebody's listening to this and they're going, I like the sound of that in terms of simplifying my customer experience so that to enable its transformation and then and also its acceleration. If I was to say to you, what would be your sort of top tips or top pieces of advice for somebody who's thinking about sort of doing that in their own organization? What would you say to them? Where would you suggest that they start or get started with what?
So I think that the most important thing, right, when you're looking to simplify, transform, and accelerate, you're looking to get a digital experience. Is really to look at your existing processes and your existing interaction points with the customers, and go through and model out what would be ideal. I take it from an outside in view. So you take the customer experience and how do you model the most effortless customer experience?
Right.
Taking out any piece of complexity. We want to invest in things that make for a more positive customer experience, and we want to invest to get things out that impede the customer experience. It's really about just getting down there, looking at that experience. How would you want to interact if you were the customer, and making it simple, straightforward, and effortless. Right. is really the goal. And obviously we're talking a lot about the electronic presence and the digital presence, and it's really about building out that solid interaction on the front line. We're focusing here at OpenText on actually transforming our support organization into a digital organization, and it really does take that a good level of cross organizational collaboration, and working very closely with our IT organization, working very closely with our marketing and our sales teams in order to make sure we're building out that world-leading presence. But it's about just taking out the effort and making it an effortless experience for the customer. You think of the things that that are successful today, whether it's as I said, whether it's going on to the iTunes Store, Google Play, or those types of things. They're there. They're easy. It's not a very, very hard process to go up and rent a movie or buy a song or a book on any of those sites. Or Amazon.com, right? And you go to Amazon.com, you can buy pretty much anything you want without much effort, and that's the key. So you need to design it to be an effortless experience, and then it's building in the logical next steps for your customer experience, and really getting the presence there is the first step, and then the transform part. Once you have that, you change that front end, you can start to transform the organization in order to support that front end. You need to have different functions. You need to have different capabilities. If you're looking at a support organization, it's no longer answering every single question that every single customer brings once. You want to create the knowledge so that it's actually out there in the digital world, so that when a customer comes in, the first thing they do is search, and they find a result, and they're perfectly happy. Yeah. That is much better than having to wait to talk to somebody to explain the whole situation all over again. If you can come in, you can search, you can find your result, and you're off and gone. That's an ideal customer experience.
Okay. I mean, just drilling into that, I just wrote a piece published it earlier this week, and it was related to a piece of research that was done. It was commissioned by Genesis, but it was conducted by the Economist Intelligence Unit, and they did a survey of a whole bunch of CEOs and C-level sort of people, and they were saying that one of the biggest headlines that came out of the report was that there was a high correlation between the NECX transformation initiatives being led by the CEO and profitability. So that's kind of one thing. But the second thing that they found out from the report is that there's actually there was a bit of a discrepancy between whether CEOs were in charge and whether their colleagues thought they were in charge of those initiatives. I mean, it's a bit on the back of that. I guess my question would be: would you agree that the sort of collaboration that you're talking about that requires to transform and accelerate these initiatives, does it need to come and be driven by the CEO? Does it need to be mandated kind of from up on high, as it were?
Well, I'm split, to be honest.
Okay.
I think it's very important that the CEO be behind the initiative. I think, as with any initiative in an organization, if the CEO mandates it, something will happen in most organizations anyway. But I really believe that it as well as the CEO mandate, there has to be a good belief and a cultural drive in the organization to move in that direction. So whether it's a digital transformation or a CX initiative, I believe that the organization really needs to be focused on making that thing successful, and it needs to believe in the end goal.
Okay.
So sure, the CEO mandates it. I would expect that it would happen, but in order to make it truly successful, in order to make it just that little bit better, the organization needs to be truly bought in.
Right. Okay. So it can't just be a diktat or from the CEO's office. It has to be something that everybody buys into.
Exactly. You can get the dictate coming out of the CEO's office, and you will have a better customer experience. Sure, people will focus on the customer experience, but in order to make it truly successful, I believe you need to build that cultural drive in the organization to want to be better,
right,
to want to have that best customer experience, because organizations are made up of thousands of people, and everybody needs to be focused on a few key things, and we're focused on improving our customer experience, and it's something that you talk to people in the organization that they understand that we have this, and they understand what we're trying to do and how we want to get there, and people are bought in, right? So it's key. It's absolutely key to any transformation. Is having that culture that can turn the dial up in one direction or the other, in order to make sure that people are following along and are bought in.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So James, it brings me to my final question that I always ask at the end of these interviews, and the question is this: is there anything that you would like to shamelessly plug?
Is there anything you'd like to shamelessly plug? Absolutely. So I would. Sorry?
I said brilliant. Go on. Crack on.
All right. I would love to shamelessly plug OpenText Analytics. We talked about the customer experience here, and obviously I'm a big fan of customer experience. But as organizations start to get a hold of data and start to realize the potential of reviewing what they have in-house, I think we OpenText are positioned with our OpenText Analytics products to help customers understand and help customers drive business results quicker. Whether it's information that's flowing through on a daily basis and something you want to look at relatively live, or if it's something that you've got stored in databases or in different cloud applications, we have the capability to pull all that together and provide an easy and fast way of providing great reports to the various pieces in any business.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, James. I mean,
that would be my shameless plug.
Yeah, no, that's great. What I'll do is I'll make sure that we get all that linked up and edited and sort of stuff. So we give you a big shout out for your analytics suite of products. But I just wanted to say thank you for your time today and for sharing your insights and your experience. That's been great.
Thanks very much, Adrian. It's been a pleasure. Anytime.